Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Cena Podcast here on the Monkey Caviar Podcast Network. I'm Tiny, your host. With me, as always, the number one figure and outer of all of them, Adam Levy. Adam, how are you today?
Feels good to be a gangster.
Oh, it's good to be back, sir.
It is great to be back, man. It's been far too long.
It has been a long time. We haven't seen y'all since Walking Dead went off the air.
Yeah.
And, we tried to hold out until I got my teeth, but Preacher would not let us do that. So,
damn Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
I am 1 month away from getting all new choppers.
Nice.
And so I have a lack of teeth right now in my mouth, and it does make for not eating very much anything other than mush. But
loading up on mashed potatoes, man.
I know it's so much. Just mush. I'm tired of it. I've been on mush for 3 weeks. I'm just like, I want a cheeseburger so bad.
Soon.
But we are not here to talk about my problems nor Adam's problems, and trust me, there are plenty of both.
This is true.
We got other things to talk about. It's back. Our boys and our girl are back, and just to prove it, I got her on my cup.
Nice. Strong
cup game. Yeah, I got a raging.
Well, I'm showing my support for Cassidy with a little bit of Guinness here.
I'm just gonna jump right into episode 1. I love the way the episodes have started so far, and the episode 1 opening it's a hoot and a holler.
It is. I mean, they went 0 to 60 right out the gate, man. I mean, they just jumped right into it. The only issue I had at the first couple minutes of the episode was what was with that weird jump to like that grindhouse looking, art style.
It's not. If you think back, the first episode of the series was very Tarantino like.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had that whole like that cheesy Genesis thing coming to Earth, but then. For this scene, like the way they jumped into it for that car chase, it didn't add anything to the story. Cool. Yeah, it just seemed out of place. Just seemed like hey, look at this cool thing we can do. Well, to me, it didn't enhance anything.
I'm not gonna mark them off for it because I thought it was a little cool homage, so I dug it.
And when else are you ever going to see a car chase set to Come On Eileen by Dexy's Midnight Runners?
Well, we're jumping the gun on the foreskin face cream. We're just jumping the gun on this a little
Cassidy's got a thing for foreskins.
I don't know if the foreskin helps with the collagen or whatnot, but that was one of the greatest conversations I've ever heard. And and then for it to move into Come On Eileen, where they start off with, oh, what a shit song. Because everyone thinks it's a shit song, but you sing along.
Honestly, I love that song. I love the 80s, man.
It's I would walk 500 miles by the Proclaimers. Sure.
But see, but unfortunately, you can't do that. How I Met Your Mother has already, kind of, used that trick.
Comes back around.
Yeah.
And it does.
But I mean, that the whole foreskin thing, that's a conversation that Garth Ennis would have written. And I wouldn't be surprised if Garth Ennis did write that for the script because Garth Ennis is that kind of guy.
Yeah, it was a very, very kind of preachery kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So I was in my notes on the car chase said this is what we're here for. It's comedy, it's violence, and Cassidy bursting into flames. It's everything you want.
Yeah, I mean, they gave you so much in that first 5 minutes right there. I mean, you had a good song, you had a fun car chase, a ridiculous action sequence in that car chase, a lot of shooting,
run out of gas.
Just
the perfect way to end it.
Yeah,
and then you get Cassidy bursting into flames because they won't hold the umbrella over it.
I love that umbrella.
First cop just hold the umbrella on him because he said he burst into flames. Like that shit happens all the time.
Yeah, only in Texas, right?
So then they stop him, and Jesse tells him to mace his nuts. All right,
this is Jesse
the
just
second best nuts reference. Aside from Abraham in The Walking Dead. Mace your balls is right up there.
Yeah. And this is Jesse just having a blast with the powers. I mean, you didn't see him have a lot of fun with it in the first season because he was still getting used to the whole idea of having these powers. But in the couple of days since season 1 ended and season 2 started in the timeline, he is just having fun.
He's having fun, and it's coming back to bite him.
Yes, he doesn't know that yet, but yeah, it's there's a cost to pay for using these powers.
Oh, so one of them is the smoky brain hand. I love the smoky brain hand. Tulip says, "You put your smoky brain hand in my head, and I don't like it." And I was like, "Oh my god, I want that as a band name."
Smoky brain hand.
Smoky brain hand. So then the Santa Killer shows up.
Well, we don't know he's the Santa Killers yet. He's still just a cowboy at this point.
Whatever. We knew he was the Santa
we
Killer
knew.
all along. We've been saying that since day 1 in Ratwater.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So my favorite bit here is when Cassidy climbs under the truck and uses the guy as like a tire brace, and it just
rolls right over him. Yeah, I mean this whole sequence was just bloody as hell. I mean, just cop get his head shot off. I mean, like a head just disintegrates from one bullet. Holes getting blown through people. Guys getting run over by a slow moving car.
I like the way they did it with you hear the shot and then the guy's head just explodes.
Yeah, because I mean, he looked like he was maybe like half a mile down the road shooting accurately.
He's a ways back.
Yeah.
So to get gas, the intestines.
Probably one of the grossest. I mean, I'm glad they didn't show it, but probably one of the grossest things ever alluded to.
It was really foul. I mean, there's a lot of really gross stuff alluded to, like the death of a cat and a dog, perhaps.
And I love the fact that when they're driving away, the intestines
and my dog. I'm sorry, what?
I love the fact that when they're driving away, the intestines are still hanging out of the gas tank in the back of the car.
It was so gross.
And she's got blood all over her mouth from sucking on these intestines.
Right. So that's the thing when they get to the gas station and Cassidy's like giving her the how to get the taste of blood out of your mouth seminar. Tabasco, yoo-hoo. That's how you do it.
Yeah. And apparently it works too, because Tulip looked a lot better afterwards.
Right. And so again, here Jesse uses Genesis for nothing important.
No.
Pretend we're not here. And the guy does.
Yeah, exactly. He forgets everybody's there.
Yeah, Tulip's just like trying to pay him. Fuck it. Don't care. What'd you make of the hot bullet?
The hot bullet?
He pulls the hot bullet off of the car and drops it.
Yeah, see, I don't know if there's anything to that. I don't know if it's the fact that the bullet was still hot because it was, just fired recently, or because I don't remember his bullets ever being magical. Although we never saw any of his spent, bullets in the books. They never ever delved into what happened with these bullets. So
I also recall the word of Genesis working on the Santa Killers.
Yeah, and we'll get to that when that point comes, because I know this is one thing I've talked about a lot in the last season is some of these fundamental changes to the characters. There are some very big ones that they're bringing in.
That's a big one.
Some massive changes to characters.
Yeah, this is a huge one. So so Cassidy pulls half of a badge out of his gut and eats the cat.
Oh, poor kitty cat.
That's what Cassidy does.
Well, yeah.
My favorite line here is they grow dumbass crazy in Texas.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite lines in that episode.
I was like, yeah, that's exactly
and just the straight face with which Ruth Negga delivered that line, that was a brilliant bit of acting on her part. she's
so beautiful.
She is, she is magical. She is,
not my type at all, but man, she's beautiful.
I remember when we talked about this before the show aired that I had my reservations about her playing Tulip, but after that first episode, I was sold, and it's only gotten better.
Right? I'm like, you know what? They could have got Rashida Jones. Like, they really could have. I would have accepted it. But yeah, so she's doing a great job. Kudos to Ruth Negga.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a hard time saying her name, when.
Yeah, I understand.
Because of where I live and things that come up on a daily around here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's rough. So the Santa Killer shows up at the gas station in one of my favorite little pans is they pan from Jesse driving away and they just 180 down to the road, and here comes the Santa Killers.
Yeah, this guy is doing a great job of just staying on their asses at this point. I mean,
no car. Yeah. I mean, he's motoring. So he arrives and asks the gas station attendant where the preacher is, and he don't fucking know because Jesse used the word on him.
Yeah.
So he rips his fucking tongue right out his mouth.
Yeah, that whole incident was all on Jesse. I mean, the guy, the store owner might have, walked away unscathed had Jesse not used the power on him.
Now, does the Saint of Killers have a little voice in him? Because I don't know that I'd stand there and let a man pull my tongue out.
No, as far as I know, the Saint of Killers had no powers other than the fact that he was, basically an invulnerable angel, or his powers came from the fact that he was given these special guns, and the fact that he's an agent of heaven.
Yeah, they didn't really explain the guns never needing to be reloaded, but
no. Or and there's another, again, there's when we get to the second episode, I'll talk about another change in the character that.
Okay. We arrive at Mike's. Mike is a new character. I don't recall him.
No, Mike is a brand new character.
Yeah, this is nobody I knew, and I don't know if there's anything to this other than what it did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, was there more to Mike's story with this Ashley in the cage? Is this going to come back, or is this just one more stop for the Santa Killers on their trail?
I think this is just one more stop. I don't think there's anything going to come of this. I mean, maybe you might hear a news story about a girl found dead in the cage somewhere in Texas because Mike's dead. But
who's going to let her out?
Exactly. I mean,
that's good.
Unless her parents come looking for her, but.
All right. Well, Ashley's toast.
Probably.
She gets out of there,
and too bad she won't be able to tweet about it.
She won't be able to tweet. Nobody wants a picture of a girl in cage. Oh, you'd be surprised.
That's Cassidy for you.
So Jesse recaps the whole thing with Mike, and Mike, who his name was Mike when he was on 24.
Yeah, he was
when he was Serrano's bodyguard.
No, was he Mike?
Yeah.
Crap.
Wasn't he Mike?
I don't. I was thinking. I thought it was. I don't remember what his name was. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I'm pretty sure it was Mike.
It's possible. It's been a long time since I've seen him in 24.
But there's a bit when they arrive at Mike's where Cassidy's in the back seat and Tulip's picking bone and shit out of her hair,
and he's just like kind of got that longing look in his eyes. Yeah,
he's got the goo eyes going. And, like, Allison's playing in the background.
Yeah,
I fucking love that. And
he brings up the whole thing about wanting to tell Jesse about them hooking up.
Yeah, we all got sides. Yeah, go ahead and tell him. I don't think that's a good plan.
And honestly, I don't like the fact that they hooked Jesse or that Tulip and Cassidy up at this point, because that was a big point of contention later on in the story.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't think it needed to wait, but they got to it, so they had to deal with it.
I mean, unless they're going to bring the situation up earlier, but I mean that was a major story point later on that led to some tensions in the group and things like that. So I mean, unless they're going to sit on it for a long time and then bring it back later on, I mean, I don't see them bringing this to a head this soon.
No, I don't think so either. I think we're going to split them up first, and then we'll deal with that later. So while he's telling Mike about all this, there is a huge spoiler going on in the background.
Oh yeah.
And
this is the
comic book people are going to catch it.
Well, before that spoiler, this is the first time that we've really heard mention of Jesse's mother.
Yeah. That
we get her name, Christine Langell, and a reference to her side of the family.
They weren't invited. And
then then it comes to the big reveal where you see the fish tank behind him with that little treasure chest, and you hear the sound of a lid being closed. Now, to people that have never read the book, this means absolutely nothing. Why you're thinking, why would he focus on the sound of a lid closing? But to the people that read the comic books, this is a massive part of Jesse's childhood when he was
this is a spoiler on the level of we're just going to tell you right now that we're going someplace you want to go. This is like there are White Walkers. You're going beyond the wall.
Yeah,
it's time. So
yeah, I mean this is a big sign that I think we're going to get Jesse's grandmother. We're going to get that side of the family, and we're going to get some backstory of young Jesse.
I want some young Jesse. Oh man!
Although to be fair, I don't know.
They can do a lot of this transplanted in New Orleans.
Yeah,
they can.
Yeah, because
his family and bring them there.
Yeah,
because you'll have this tulip story that we'll get to in a minute, but then we need something else there besides looking for God in jazz clubs. I think that it's easy to see Jesse's family or Jesse's mom's family in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because, from what we know of Jesse's childhood, he was raised by his dad, from a young age, and then his dad was killed. So we don't know who killed the dad, but well, we know in the comic books, but we don't know in the show because of what they've changed in the backstory. We don't know if that's still true or not. But we never found out what happened to Jesse after his dad was killed. So I'm wondering if he was taken by his mother's side of the family, if as possibly only living relatives, maybe that's where this part of the story comes in, because it was the complete opposite in the comic books. He was raised, most of his childhood was spent, in Angelville with the Langels, his mother's family, with his mom. His dad wasn't around much because his dad died, but the large part of his formative years were spent in Angelville, and that did a number on this kid.
Yeah, by taking out Jesse's dad as a military veteran, it's going to change a lot of things from the comic.
Yes,
it's just
like we won't get the lighter.
The lighter, the lighter's not going to be. You were showing me your lighter earlier. Yeah, we're not going to get the lighter. And there's a couple of good. There's a huge a full trade paperback dedicated to Jesse's dad's backstory.
Well, there was, I think, a total of like 3 or 4 issues. Basically, there was the 2-parter of Spaceman in Texas about Jesse's dad and his friend in Vietnam, and then there was one more story, I think, issue 50, where Jesse and him meet up at the Vietnam Memorial, and he tells him another story about his dad getting the Medal of Honor.
Oh, all right. So
I think at most you're looking at 4 issues of Jesse's dad's story. And while they would have been fun to see, I don't think that they would have really changed anything in the story. And especially now that they've changed his father's background altogether, it really has no place in the story whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's just one of the choices they made.
And especially since they've changed the time period around, Jesse's dad doesn't look like he would have even been old enough to be in Vietnam.
Right. And plus, when the book was written in, the 90s, when Jesse's dad would have been,
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that we're doing it now, almost 30 years later, that's why we have a lag. And he could have been a Iraqi war veteran, maybe.
Yeah.
But why change it around that much? Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it and find a different way to do it.
Exactly.
So everything at Mike's is just a big setup for what's to come. And Mike sends him on his way with this lady was dead white in the face, and she says God came into her place, and go talk to her.
I loved the whole scene of the 3 of them sharing a bed together, and Cassie's like, "Look, if you guys need to do that," he's like, "It's cool." He's like, he's like, we shared a room with our parents, and they'd go at it, and you just learn to tune it out.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Just go ahead.
Yeah.
But again, here, this is Jesse goes outside to have the cigarette, and Mike says, "Show me," and he says, "Break something," and he throws his glass. And if he doesn't do that, Mike doesn't die.
No, probably not,
because he hadn't used the word. He hadn't used Genesis there.
No,
I don't want to call it the word. I mean, that sounds kind of silly, but he didn't use Genesis there until that moment.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is like, what did it?
I'm sorry, but
why did it take the Saints so long to get there at that point, though? Because every other time it's taken him minutes, it seems, to show up. Was the Saint was he just taking a nap?
Might have been a long walk.
Maybe.
So when the Saint shows up, we finally get "Do you know who I am?" and we get Saint of Killers just plastered on the screen.
This is the first time that the show actually refers to him by the name.
I got to admit, I yelped a little.
So honestly, I was a little bit surprised. I wasn't sure if they were actually ever going to call him the Saint of Killers because of the changing of his backstory. And I mean, not so much they changed his backstory. They've so far they've left elements of his backstory out. We don't, he hasn't been referred to as an angel. He's, we don't know if he's the angel of death. Right. They've talked about him as a legend. And even if you look at the Saint of Killers miniseries, the story starts off with some guy talking to his kid about this legend of the Saint of Killers. So he's kind of like a hitman boogeyman, so to speak. He is, he is the god of, of the hitmen, in a way. The show has never referred to him as an angel. They've never given the backstory about him, essentially putting the fires of hell out and making a bargain with the angel of death to take his place. Right. So as far as we know, he might just be a supernatural enforcer of sorts, kind of a bounty hunter.
When Jesse's talking with Fior in episode 2, he says, "This is Saint of Killers," and he says, "I thought that was just a ghost story."
Yeah.
And he said, no, it's no ghost story.
Yeah, exactly. So they've kind of built him up as this like myth, this urban legend, so to speak, and the fact that, a lot of people have seemed, or I wouldn't say a lot, we've had a few people that seem to have heard of this character, gives credibility to the fact that maybe he's not the angel that we know him as in the comic books.
True.
But we may be surprised. They may let us know that they may give us more backstory. They might show us, the rest of the story with him actually going to hell for the first time. And
I think we'll get it. It'll just take time.
Yeah.
I love Mike's preparation for his arrival. He pours a couple whiskeys and he kicks the fucking door open and he goes, "You broke my door and my dog."
And my dog. Yeah, Mike clearly does not give a fuck.
No, and he takes himself out before he can give up information. Good on him.
Yeah. Well, it's like this. He's like, well, if you know who I am, you know that knife in your hand's not going to do anything to stop me from making you tell me. And he's like, "No, it's not for you. It's for me," and just plunges it into his chest. I mean, smart move on Mike's part.
But see, that was another thing to me where I have to ask: does the Saint of Killers have this voice of Genesis? Because you said, "I can make you tell me." I know what he means is.
I think it was more of along the lines of, I can hurt you until you tell me.
Right. But it just came up twice in this episode where he pulls the guy's tongue out of his mouth and that guy really doesn't react. And then here it just kind of put it on an iffy wavelength. And because he didn't have this power in the comics does not mean he doesn't have it here.
No, but I mean, as far as we know, there's only one Genesis. There is only one being. There are only two beings in the world that are capable of making people do this. One of them's God, and the other one's Genesis.
Well, I can only hope the Saint of Killers story ends the way it does in the comic.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, no, that would be great.
If it ends the way it ends in the comic, I'm going to be totally happy with this whole experience.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to do something with the Saint of Killers, especially this season, because of the way he is right now. It's completely unfair.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. There is nothing to stop this guy.
Yeah, there has to be something because it's going to get old having him just trail behind them and just everybody's going to die. Everyone they meet is dead. Basically. I
mean, that's
how this episode played. Every person they met in this episode died.
Yeah. When we get to the second episode and some revelations that come along from there, there's a point I want to make about the characters. Without getting too far ahead of ourselves, but
okay. Well, let's just get this finished up here. So they go to the Shishis.
I love the name of the bar.
The strip club where God hangs out. Apparently.
And honestly, have you? I've never been to one, but have you ever been to a strip club that has a live jazz band?
Fuck no! I was like, I told Krista we were watching. I was like, that's the classiest fucking strip club I ever seen.
Seriously, I don't even know if girls would strip to jazz. I mean, if it's not like White Snake or something like that, is it considered stripping if it's just like to slow jazz?
I might open a strip club with a jazz band. Like my strippers might not be hot, but fuck, we got jazz.
What would it be called? Like the Blue Note / Blue Balls?
I call it jazz on jazz equals jazz.
Jazz in your pants.
Jazz in your pants. There you go. Perfect.
All right, let's make it happen.
I think so.
We'll go in 50-50 on this.
We can open it next to the pump room.
I've been there twice now, actually.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Last time I was there with Buddy, like 5 minutes after we walked in, a fucking fight broke out.
It's the pump room. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's the pump room. Yeah.
If you're in Orange County, go to the pump room. If we are sponsored by the pump room next episode, I will be the happiest dude in the world. We can play the song from Friendly Indian.
We can play the Friendly Indian song. Yeah, that's great.
So in She's, Cassidy gets a little handsy with the stripper, as he tends to do.
And I love that. I love how they show this. Jesse and Tulip are in the office, and you just see like the little security video of like, Cassidy getting handsy and the girl putting her hands on him, and the lady calling security. So
Tammy, the runner of the strip club, shout out to our Tammy Parker. How are you? I know you'll watch this eventually. So Tammy, the great debate between Tulip and Jesse here on whether he's going to use Genesis on her. Again, a very Garth Ennis kind of conversation.
Yeah,
like I could just do it and she'll tell me. And with Tulip is turned on this whole this is bad thing. And I wanted to get back to that. At the very beginning in the police, when the police had him stopped, Jesse says, make your balls and you two hold hands and you sing the Yellow Rose of Texas. That's what seemed to bother Tulip the most. Was the Yellow Rose of Texas. Not to spray your balls with mace. No, that was cool. But the Yellow Rose of Texas was like, all right, you've gone too far.
And there's a couple things. Maybe she doesn't like the song, who knows? But, I think at that point she realized that he was just kind of abusing the power. Just going a little bit too far.
It is a little too far. So, while they're arguing, Cassidy and the bouncer get into a kerfuffle. Because that's the best word I could think for it, a kerfuffle.
Yeah.
And Tammy takes one in the chest through the wall.
God, shoddy craftsmanship, man. Paper thin walls.
That was my second favorite death of these two episodes. My first one happens in the next episode.
And there were plenty of them.
There are lots to choose from. I don't know. Kill of the week is hard.
Yeah.
But so she takes it, and how come the Santa Killers never showed up there?
I was going to ask that same question. Maybe he did, but we didn't see it, and he didn't do anything because the person that would have known was dead.
All right, so he hears that God was there for the jazz.
Jesse was thinking that God was there for a girl, that God had fallen in love with a stripper, because
which is ludicrous.
Yeah. You never fall in love with a stripper,
right? He's not gonna fall in love with a stripper.
Can you imagine God in the champagne room?
Not that I haven't met some damn fine strippers.
This is true.
And if they're doing an occupation that God bless them, somebody needs to do. So
yeah, I mean, I've met a number of them, and they are all wonderful people.
They're well, not all, but some.
Well, the ones that I've met.
I made a generalization about strippers, and I shouldn't have. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
True.
That's right. Open-minded.
Yeah, it's equal opportunity on the show, man.
So, I think I answered my own Santa Killers question why he didn't go there, because the next bit is they're at the Relax Inn Hotel, and Jesse uses Genesis to get through a fucking hallway. Just move. Like, all right, you might be using this a bit much.
You think?
I'm not waiting in this line at Disneyland. Fuck all these kids.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
I want to watch.
Like I said, this is him kind of just abusing the power at this point. He's, he has realized what this thing can do, how much he can do with this power, and he's kind of gotten a little drunk on it. It's a crutch right now.
It's like getting a ginger ale when you want a root beer. So this is the first time. So Jesse and Tulip do the bang 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 bang, and while they're doing this, Cassidy's watching the TV, and we get our first glimpse of
barely a glimpse of the great Ganesh.
The amazing Ganesh.
And, and see, here's one thing that bothered me too, is the fact that how quickly Jesse and Tulip seem to reconcile after all of this stuff. You know, in the books, it took a lot more for them to kind of fall back into each other's arms. Namely, Tulip getting shot in the face and being resurrected by God.
Yeah, okay. But they didn't go that route.
They haven't, so but you
don't need
but she didn't make him work for it either. You know, she didn't really make him work for it.
But by setting them up this way, when they break them up, then it's going to be heartbreaking for the audience until they get back together. Yeah, and that will happen. I mean,
you know, if you look at it in the books, though, it did happen pretty soon. I mean, it happened, you know, by the end of the second major storyline.
Yeah, you knew all the way through that they were in love and it was gonna happen.
Yeah,
like why Dave Addison? You know why Dave Addison and Maddie Hayes? You don't need to do the whole moonlighting. Fucking, I don't need 2 seasons of them.
No, I mean, I wasn't expecting, you know, a lot more, but you know, maybe a couple episodes in, you know, the start of the road trip, they get right into banging. That's like, you know, I think they could have waited a little bit longer.
Nah, let them bang.
Yeah, everyone needs a good bang.
All right, so Jesse goes out for his post-coital smoke, which seems to be his thing now. He just goes out in the middle of the night and smokes. And he is approached by the Santa Killers, who does not flinch in the face of Genesis. And that's how episode 1 ended. We got through that in
about 30 minutes.
I knew it wouldn't take long.
Nah.
All right. Episode 2 starts right where it left off.
And thank God it was the next night, man. If I had to wait a week for that.
Oh, I know. Would have been horrible. Like I'm in a much better place now to wait for this week's episode than I would have had to wait for episode 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Santa Killer shows up, and luckily for Jesse, the Relax Inn is filled with the great association of gun aficionados.
Well, before the gun aficionados show up, you know, you've got Jesse shouting the word at the Saint, who is just shrugging it off like it's nothing.
Ah, you're right. We got to get to my favorite kill of the week.
Well, yeah, that was a great scene. And again, this comes to another, you know, horrible character change that they've made. Yeah, so Jesse's shouting, you know, for the Saint to stop, and the Saint, you know, pulls out his gun and takes a shot right as some moving van comes out. Poor driver takes it right in the head, swerves into the middle of the road, and just plows right into the Santa Killers.
Oh, good. And all I can hear in my head is Weezer. I feel like I've been run over by a truck.
So there are 2 big Santa Killers changes right here. Okay. A, the fact that the word does not work on him, because in the book it did. Correct. You know, Santa Killers was just as susceptible to the word of God as any other person out there. And the second thing is that truck hitting him shouldn't have sent him going across the road into that telephone pole.
Nah, he just should have shrugged it off.
Well, I mean, if you remember in the first, issue 4 or issue 3, the confrontation at the motel, when Cassidy shows up to try and save Jesse from the Santa Killers, you know, Cassidy's driving a truck full blast, you know, just gunning it, sees the Santa Killers, and he screams at him, is like, "Your mom's a whore," and he crashes into him. The Saint doesn't move. Cassidy goes flying through the windshield, you know, and the truck crumbles in on itself, and the Saint's just standing there like, "Well, that sucked." And Cassidy's like, "Well, worst rescue ever."
All right, so that's a flaw from season to season. Yeah, that's not good. That's a continuity problem. But luckily, with these gun aficionados, they take care of shit. They put their guns out, they shoot him, they blow him up, and he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, thank God for that little girl with a machine gun with a rocket launcher, with a grenade launcher attached to it. I mean, you know, she was the one least likely to be carrying that weapon, but you know, good on her for doing so.
They grow dumbass crazy in Texas.
Yes, they do.
Wow. So yeah, I like that they all celebrate, and it takes like all of 2 seconds for him to just reappear. Like, no, I'm okay. And
you know, you see all the bullet shells just roll off of him and hit the ground, and then he starts opening fire like he wants to do.
He takes out everybody.
Everybody.
And, Jesse and Cassidy running to find Tulip watching news of Anvil, which they had apparently not heard yet.
No.
So now they're like taking this. I love that they took a brief moment to just,
to remember the fact, to realize the fact that their hometown has just been wiped off the map.
Gone, everybody gone.
Yeah.
So then they get the hell out of Dodge in the hotel with the root beer and the one-armed guy in the root beer.
This brings in my third complaint about the Santa Killers. Is you've got homeboy there at the vending machine missing an arm, clearly having been shot off by the Santa Killers.
Yeah.
The other thing is the legend about his guns is that no wound they gave would be anything less than fatal. Him getting shot in the arm should have killed him. You know, the Saint could have shot you.
Him get shot in the arm.
Well, true. I mean, but considering how calm he was in this whole thing, I'm assuming, but, and I could be wrong. There could have been something else that took his arm off, but, I don't remember, it was just basically the Saint shooting everybody. So I had to assume he just had his arm blown off.
Well, another great opening sequence. Another episode of 10 minutes of just hellacious terror right from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, both these episodes just started out like going 90 miles an hour.
So then it takes a moment. It goes back to season 1, and Fiora is sitting in the Breaking Bad spot.
Well, so they're at the gas station, and Cassidy's telling Jesse that he found somebody that might be able to help them with the Santa Killers. And Jesse's like, he was like, I saw somebody on TV that might be able to help us. And Jesse's like, I swear to God, if you say Gandalf, I'm going to punch you.
Yeah, that's great.
And he's like, no. Then it cuts to Fiore sitting at the bus stop at the tram stop after getting back from hell by himself.
Takes the shuttle to the Mumbai Sky Tower.
Yes.
Okay. It took me until after I watched it the second time. An hour after I watched it, I was sitting on my couch and I went, oh, fuck, it's an Indian casino. I get it now. I didn't get it. I was like, what the fuck is a Mumbai casino doing in Texas?
Yeah.
And then, it's an Indian casino.
Yeah, that was a cerebral joke there.
That was it was a deep thinker.
Yeah. Not something you expect from Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, but good on them for throwing it out there.
Yeah, I was really like, God damn, that's a really good joke. I mean, it's funny as shit. That I hope we're like cluing someone in on the fact that that's what the joke was, because if that wasn't the joke, then I don't know what was funny. So I'm gonna go with it was a joke.
Yeah, let's go with that.
So Frank Patel, if you recognized Frank Patel, you might have known him from his work on Chuck.
Yeah, it took me a second. I'm like, is that Jeff?
That is Jeff.
It's one half of Jeffster.
Jeffster. Hello, Jeffster. So yeah, that was great. That was a great little bit for him. I was glad to see him.
Yeah, I mean, I love this whole sequence of what Fiore has been doing from the time he got back from hell to the time he becomes the great Ganesh.
Right. So all he's doing is killing himself repeatedly, trying to get to DeBlanc, I'm assuming.
I mean, yeah, poor guy. He is miserable. I mean,
he's just lonely. I mean,
he hangs himself. Nothing. He goes to the roulette table, wins a bunch of money. Nothing. He goes, finds a whore, gets laid. Nothing. Gives her all of his money. No, nothing.
Shoots himself in the head.
And then electrocutes him during the Frank Patel show.
and electrocutes himself. And this is it's great when he comes Ganesh, and then he's getting his head lopped off, and he's coming back, and he's doing William Tell, and he's coming back, and it cutting him in half, and he's coming back, and it's just great. And I love
he's found a way to make his power work for him.
I love that there was a splash zone in the front.
It's like a fucking Gallagher show.
It's legendary. Oh man.
Hopefully the Gallagher reference isn't lost on a lot of our audience,
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure.
We're fine.
Yeah, I'm sure we're good.
If you got the intelligence to follow this, you know Gallagher. All right, so here's one of the quick little hops this episode did that I wasn't real thrilled with. But it just Fior and is now in his dressing room with Jesse and Cassidy, and this is where he tells them all about the Saint of Killers, really, but he doesn't not into depth, not the backstory we want, but action enough. He's a beast straight out of hell. Blah blah blah. What the hell?
Having trouble with your notes?
Yep.
Yeah, he tells him that he's an unstoppable. This is where Jesse learns how the Saint's tracking him down.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it says he's interrupted with the photo shoot with the kid.
Oh yeah, the Make-A-Wish kid.
The Make-A-Wish kid comes in. I love the bit with his hand after he touches the kid's head. He's looking at his hand like, I need Purell.
Yeah. This is also where you find out.
Amazing and I can't tell you my secret. Get out of here, you dying little bastard.
You little scamp. Yeah, this is also where you find out that Fiore and DeBlanc are the reason that the Saint is after Jesse.
Right. And then he explains that the Saint is tracking Genesis.
Yes.
So now Jesse knows that if he uses it, the Saint of Killers just show up and fuck everybody up.
And this brings up a powerful lesson that Jesse learned in the book, is that he can't rely on this word to get him out of trouble. In the book, he realized that it was too easy to get wrapped up in this power. And so he, throughout most of the story, he uses the word very sparingly. He uses it in like major situations where shit's going down. But
are you saying that in a comic book, someone learned that with great power comes great responsibility?
And it didn't take the death of his uncle to teach him that one.
Fuck Uncle Ben.
Yeah, I mean, but as we've seen so far in these first two episodes, like Jesse was using this power for stupid shit. Not to get him out of any kind of trouble, really. He was just abusing it, having fun.
To get people to move in a hallway, right?
And to have two cops hold hands and stuff like that. I mean, this is a thing, and he never the lesson wasn't this. The lesson wasn't this kind of strong in the book. It wasn't like the Saint was tracking him because of this, but there was a point in time where he lost the ability, and it cost him, Tulip's life for a brief moment.
Happen. So
was that?
I'm sure that will happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll. I mean, we've already seen him, the power be ineffective against the Saint of Killers, and that was kind of a bit of a wake up call. But to find the power didn't work on on certain people, and to realize, okay, well, I can't rely on this to get me out of trouble every time. That was something that he learned, and that became a useful lesson for him. He's kind of learned that now, that he knows that that's what's leading the Saint to him. So for the rest of the episode, you didn't see him use the powers until he absolutely had to.
Not had to, but wanted to. I think was
well for
that at the end with Fior. Yeah. I like that Fior explains that he is not DeBlanc.
Yeah. Jesse called him DeBlanc. But at this point, Fiore decides he's not going to help them out.
Yeah, he's not going to help them out, and Cassidy says, I have a set of skills.
Yeah.
So he goes,
give me 2 hours and 45 minutes.
2 hours, 45 minutes, and I love that they popped the clock up. It's just one of those. That's one of those little kind of Tarantino-y things. Just bing.
Yeah.
So I dug that, and that they came back to it. But before we get to the funnest 4 minutes of this episode, we have to talk real quick. Tulip is having Walter issues because he used to show up at school drunk and fall over, but he was wearing a suit, so it was okay.
Yeah, of course. Well, no, like she said, that was the only family she had left, and now, as far as we know, she has no family left at all in this world.
Right, and so, this will take us back to after the 4 minutes.
Yes.
All right, so now 4 minutes of fun. Cassidy and Fior doing speedballs. Oh my God, one of the funnest scenes I've ever seen.
I love the first one. Cassie's like, you got to mainline it. It hits him in his neck, and all of a sudden, the flash of light, and Fiore walks out of the next room. He's like, all right, less heroin.
So good. So yeah, everything. I love that whole bit as you watch Fior just kind of fall in love with Cass.
And we get back to the conversation about foreskins.
It was more about friendship than love.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean.
And because what we learned in this scene is that Fiore was missing his best friend. The one person.
And I do something. And he did something. And I
do
something.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what it was. Fiore had lost the only friend he really had in heaven and in earth. The one person that like his other half in a non-sexual relationship. He was, they were, the two pieces in the pod.
How was the sex?
Yeah, Cassidy throwing that out there. Yeah, I mean, if you lose somebody that's that important to you, you're gonna be pretty, messed up for a while.
I agree.
And as from the way they kind of portrayed Fiore in the show, Fiore seemed like the simple one. He seemed, DeBlanc was the brains, and Fiore was kind of like, yeah. So you take that aspect out, and again, this is another change they made. They kind of stayed true a little bit, but in the comic books, after DeBlanc and Fiore fell from heaven, they ended up opening their own casino. Not just one of them getting a job as a stage show in a casino. They opened their own casino in Vegas or Atlantic City, I think it was, like Heaven on Earth, and it was a kind of a funny little side story every now and then when they go back to the casino.
This casino wasn't as fun.
No, the Moon by Sky Tower, not quite as fun.
After this, the 4 minutes of fort building and kickball.
Frisbee.
Dude, so much fun. Drugs are so fun, kids. I can't tell you how good they are. They make you do so much fun stuff.
After seeing that, I wanted to take a bunch of drugs.
Me too. And I was on some when I was watching it.
I could have used some.
Jesse and Tulip decide they're going to get married, and they go downstairs to get their wedding. Well,
apparently there was a massive run on the chapel because you had to get your Outback Steakhouse pager device to fucking wait to get your turn.
I gotta wait for this family of 5 to move before I can get married. So yeah, she takes that, and here, okay, I have a whole lot of fucking issues with the rest of this episode.
Okay.
All right. The simplicity with which Gary shows up and is just all of a sudden there.
Yeah.
And now he's this huge source of conflict is a little too on the nose.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, a little bit. I mean, I understand they gave him a line where he checks this stuff for Victor, whoever the fuck Victor is.
It ties a little bit to her backstory from the comic books, where she ended up, getting into a loan shark for money to get into rehab after Jesse left.
That's all fine, but just show me Gary doing something with someone that works there, where they're handing him something like he's important, so I know that he's attached to this casino in some way.
Yeah.
And instead of just random dude walking around, and then she's all of a sudden like chasing him down.
Yeah.
And so they get into her room, and there's the vagueness which they offer new characters kind of pisses me off.
A little bit. I mean, they could have explained a little bit more.
They've done it before with other characters where they just kind of bring them up, and then we got to figure them out.
Yeah.
And there was the guy in the trunk, and Carlos, and fuck. So now we have Victor and Gary, who are a thing. So we're gonna.
Are they a thing, or they're just a thing?
I think they're just a thing. I don't think they're a thing.
I don't think so.
But all right, so fine, so whatever. Tulip fucking fucks him up with the wedding pager. It was great.
God damn, she beat his ass with that thing.
That was great. It was good.
Then Cassidy shows up.
While Jesse and Fiore are standing down there at the altar, and I love the guy just comes up for a random selfie. Selfie. And we get to talk about Eugene finally.
Yes.
And there's a little Eugene on the horizon. Eugene's coming back, folks. His name's in the goddamn credits. Trust me, he's going to be in this.
Yeah. He's still a major point. And I mean, from the scene that we had here, he's still a major part of Jesse. Jesse still wants to get him out of hell. Jesse.
Now he has to figure out how without Fiore's help.
Yeah. Fiore said he'd never go back to hell. he'd never, he's like, yeah, nope, not going to happen.
I have an inkling as to how this might go down, but it would be purely speculation to say that one Saint of Killers will help Eugene return from hell.
At this point in the story, I think that's the only way we can.
Right? It's the only person that can go back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I think. He's got to help get Eugene back in some way.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to figure out a way for Jesse and the Saint to get face to face without the Saint shooting him, because the power doesn't work on him.
What was I gonna say? I had a thing in my head and I forgot what it was. It was Frank Patel. Frank Patel and Jesse were drinking at the bar.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? And Frank Patel says, whatever the answer is, it's music.
Yeah. And this brought Jesse back to the whole, I know where we got to go.
Right, New Orleans. Because that's where the jazz is. But when Cassidy asks Fiore what happened to DeBlanc, he says, well, that's the question.
Well, yeah, I think Cassidy asked him, where do angels go when they die?
But if the answer to every question is music, then how does the music end DeBlanc? Will that come up, or was it just kind of bad writing?
I think it might just be bad writing. The whole thing was like Cassidy asked, like, what happens to angels when they die, and Fiore has no answer because why would an angel go to heaven? That's if they've been kicked out of heaven.
He legitimately says that's the question, isn't it? And then the next scene is Patel and Jesse, and he says the answer to any question is music.
I mean, it's possible that this may have some tie. Maybe Dead Angels become great music. I don't know.
I don't want to see those two gone forever. That's the whole thing. But I got
to exactly. I mean, I really liked those characters.
I do think
they weren't the assholes that they were in the book. In the comic book, those two characters were funny. And Fiore itself is pretty funny, but they weren't portrayed as like comical characters in the show.
Right.
At least not on purpose. You look at things like, in this episode where Fiore keeps killing himself. That was funny shit. It wasn't funny for him, but you look back at the last season, that fight between DeBlanc, Fiore, and that other angel and Jesse in that hotel room. That was fucking amazing. That was one of the best scenes in that show I've seen. I mean, I love that scene so much.
They do a really good job of mixing comedy and violence. I will give them that.
I mean, you don't get a lot of shows or anything, movies or whatever, where they make violence funny.
Yeah,
at least that level of violence.
They take the
level of violence because it's graphic. I mean, bloody and body parts flying about.
But at the same time, Game of Thrones is far more brutal than this.
Yeah, but I don't think I've laughed at anybody getting beheaded on Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Game of Thrones isn't about doing funny with their violence, and Preacher is all about the funny with the violence. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. If you make it kind of funny, it doesn't seem as horrific. You look at it and be like, it's kind of brutal still. I mean, there's a guy walking around with no arm trying to get a root beer, but normally you see that and be like, oh, that's fucked up. But you look at this and be like, dude, that's kind of funny. The guy just wants a root beer. How's he going to open it with one arm?
A guy kills a cat. It's not funny.
A vampire kills a cat.
A cat licks the badge you just pulled out of your stomach, and then you kill it, and it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all about perspective.
And for me, it's being, a little bit sick.
It's true.
That does help. So the conclusion of this episode is Jesse tells Fiore with the Genesis to find peace.
Yes.
And the Saint of Killer shows up, as he is tend to do when the voice is used.
Well, yeah. Well, because Fiore had told Jesse that he was going to call the Saint of Killers off. That's the other thing that was said, is that Fiore and DeBlanc had hired the Saint to get Genesis. So Jesse learned that the reason the Saint's after him is because of Fiore, and that's what they were trying to get him to call the whole thing off. So after the drug-fueled afternoon with Cassidy, Fiore finally decides that, okay, yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and do this. He tells him he's going to go ahead and call the whole thing off. And Jesse, I think Jesse might have messed that up with what he chose to tell Fiore.
Yeah, I think he did.
You know, had he said something else, had he said anything else,
besides,
I don't think we would have had I don't think the episode would have ended the way it did.
Fair.
But yeah, he tells Fiore to find peace, and in Fiore's head, considering, you know, with everything that's gone around, the only way for him to find peace is for him to find his friend, and the only way that's going to happen is
to go out the same way.
Is to end it permanently, which, as we know at this point, is the only way it can be done is through the Santa Killers.
But it was a little betraying of him to tell him that they were going to New Orleans.
A little bit.
Little betrayal.
I mean, part of me makes me wonder if Fiore was really going to call him off at all. You know, was he just saying that?
I think so.
Was that?
No, I think his plan was to go out like the Blanc, and he saw his way, and he manipulated Jesse into doing what he wanted.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there was a bit of a betrayal about, you know, telling the Saint where they were heading, but right. At the same time, you know,
taking a midnight train to Georgia. He's going down to San Antonio to fuck your whore of a mother. Oh, God damn. See,
good old Mike.
They do that, and they bring up good characters, and like, I like Mike. Like, he keeps people in cages, covered cages.
Yeah.
Not strapped to a wall. Covered cages work best. Don't tell me how to minister.
Yeah. Yeah, in order to break people of their addictions like Twitter. You know?
Twitter. I like when Tammy goes, oh yeah, he's had me in that garage a couple times.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking normal. It's not. So
not that I'm aware of.
Talk about next week, because Tuesday's 4th of July. What are we gonna do?
This is a good question.
We moved it to Tuesday because they moved it to Monday. And I hope we're not getting 2 episodes next week, even though that would be awesome.
I don't think so. I think we're just getting the one.
Yeah. So, what do you want to do? You want to go Wednesday night?
Yeah, we can do Wednesday. I can do that.
I mean, it would put you at 9:00 on 4th of July, and I don't really want
to
ruin your 4th of July.
Yeah, I've got no idea what my plans are for the 4th yet. So, but
like, I can handle it because it'd be midnight, but
yeah,
it would ruin your time. So let's just do Wednesday. We'll have to do midnight again. 9. So
yeah,
next week we'll be on Wednesday, and then we'll be back on Tuesday. We also have some other things coming up that we got to talk about.
Such as
in a few weeks, there's a Sunday show that's going to start that we are going to want to talk about.
Yes,
Game of Thrones.
So, yes.
I don't know if you want to do like a double each week and let's do our Preacher, and then we can stop, turn it off, turn it back on, and do Game of Thrones. Or
well, I mean, are you going to be up for that? Because if we're going to do that on Tuesday, that's going to have you going midnight to 2 a.m.
Yeah, that'll be pretty.
I mean, we can do Monday, Tuesday.
Well, it's only 7 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's only 7 episodes of Game of Thrones.
All right, let's plan on doing the Game of Thrones on Monday, and we'll do Preacher on Tuesday still.
Well, because Game of Thrones doesn't come back till mid-July, so actually, that's only a couple weeks, isn't it?
And the first Monday, right in the middle of it, I got Primus on Monday night.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I'm not missing that.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, God no.
Primus is the 24th, so it will be right in the middle of that.
That'll be what, the second episode?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because it comes back on the 16th. So.
All right.
I guess that week we could do a double episode on Tuesday.
Yeah, that week we'll have to do the double, but other than that, we'll handle singles.
That's fine with me. I got nothing else going on. I got plenty of free time these days.
This what is there, 13 episodes of Preacher this time?
Yeah, but it's only going to go 12 weeks, obviously, since we got 2 this week.
Right, we got 2, but it's still 3 months. Which should take us through summer, which would drop us right on Walking Dead's doorstep.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Where's Carl will take the place of the Walking or Game of Thrones, and we'll go back to Monday nights for Where's Carl.
Yes.
All right. So we're good.
We're gonna have a busy couple months coming up.
Yeah, we're gonna be solid till like November-ish.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, there might be a little break in between.
Yeah.
Between
Preacher and Walking Dead, yeah.
And so I'm also still working on my Adam Pock interview. I wanted to wait for my teeth so I could be nice and shiny when I interview my first Big Brother player. I'm super excited about it. We're just gonna sit down. We're gonna dive through his whole season. It's gonna be fucking awesome. I can't wait to do that.
Yeah, you've been talking about this one for a while, and I know you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I met him a while ago, and we were gonna do it in May, and then the whole teeth thing started, and I dropped the ball a little bit, and I had to call and be like, "Hey, look, let me get my teeth in, and then we'll do this." And you can see I'm hiding behind microphones, and doing everything I can to show off my gums. But yeah, it's rough. But that's okay. It's almost over.
Yeah, at least you're doing something about it.
I'm going to have a smile again.
There you go.
I'll be able to chew. I miss chewing.
All right. Yeah, I can see how that'd be something you would miss.
It is. It really is. You don't think you do, but I miss it.
Yeah, no, I get you.
All right, that's going to do it, folks. We're going to wrap this up. We'll be back here next Wednesday.
Yeah.
I can't even fucking remember.
Goddamn holidays throwing everything off.
Yeah, holiday. So enjoy your 4th of July. Enjoy your Preacher, and we will talk to you next time. Until then, love many, trust few, and do harm to no one. Subscribe while you're here.